LinkedIn Echo Chamber. This is Emma's like Teen Spirit. Today I've got Tom back with me. Tom, how are you doing?
Hi, great. Thanks. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really good. So, Tom, thanks for coming back. Today I wanted to pick on a topic with you. I'd seen a chart that showed an amount of spend from big brands on AI, and the one from 2023 said that 93% of companies are increasing their spend in AI, and that's really good because I've got an AI product and you got an AI consultancy. So, amen to that. But the
Sounds
next
it.
chart, yeah, right. The next chart was plans for 2024, and it was pretty interesting, as it said actually 35% of brands are planning just to hold constant their spend. So it indicated a bit of a flattening there. And when I sent that to you, you said, well, there is a bit of a struggle in getting value from AI. There might be some interesting talking points behind this flattening of spend, and I wondered if we could go through it today. So the subject for this interview is going to be the struggle to get value from AI, and I wondered if you could, tee us up a little bit, really, as to like what would be some of the things you would speak about, and then we'll get into it.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the major things when we talk about value from AI is sort of maybe not really having focused on what the business use case is. What is it that we're trying to solve? For one thing, just focusing more on, hey, we've got pressure to adopt a technology, rather than what are we trying to solve with that technology. And there comes a thing where it means it gets sort of shoehorned into situations that it's not really adding any benefit. We sort of start to forget what the actual process is for these things sometimes, and I guess sometimes it's even a case of going, well, we've got a technology, let's make a new process just to use the technology rather than our existing business. And so I think a lot of it comes back to really understanding what is the pain point you're trying to solve by adopting AI. How are you measuring that? And are you collecting the right information to be able to automate it and measure that?
Let's get into that in a bit more detail, because I'm thinking that lots of folk probably have a list of things we're going to do with AI. And audience, if you don't have that list, don't worry, you're not particularly behind. But some people will have a list of four or five things. So it sounded like there's we're really talking about how to diagnose a good use case. What would be a way you'd express that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's 2 or 3 points on it. One would be if there's somewhere where a lot of time, it's quite repetitive and a lot of time is being spent on it. So I guess often these tend to look, or the easiest place to look for them is things like admin processes, where people are just doing the same task over and over for it to go back into another system. So data comes out one system, gets played around a bit, gets put back into another system. That's like a really strong use case for it. Another one, I guess, is in terms of the things that require ongoing monitoring and decision making. So I guess some examples of this would be, like, I mean, you may build an analytics dashboard and you may want to monitor what that's saying about, like, let's say on your CRM side, you may want to say, like, how many people are responding to what type of communications. Second place to look is where there needs to be a lot of monitoring. So where there's a lot of decision-making processes. So it might be like you start with analytics and you have someone who's regularly looking at the health of something. I mean, one example we're working with at the moment is, for example, health and safety. So you have someone who's regularly looking at a dashboard and saying, well, this is the health of our site, this is the number of incidents that are occurring, these are the things that are being flagged on it. But the problem is you can only then make decisions when that person is looking at that dashboard, and that dashboard can't be looked at all the time, all day. And it also requires them to remember to come back and look at it. So I guess another good point for AI is to be able to either automate that decision making or prompt someone to come and make a decision because it's noticed a change in behavior that requires attention and focuses that attention in the right direction. And then I guess the third point is sometimes when you look at things and go, God, I wish I could do that. I wish, if only there was a way of knowing X or knowing Y. And then sometimes one of the big strengths of AI is processing large chunks of data and noticing patterns in it. And that's a really really strong use case for AI to be able to expand your capabilities rather than just continue doing what you're doing.
The struggle to get value from it, Tom. Let's focus on this value piece, because that statistic I quoted at the start is really, to me, saying there might be a bunch of people who spent heavily, and the statistic is a bit of a clickbait, because it kind of says, spend is flattening. Well, it really means they're still spending the same as last year, which was a large uptick in their spend. It's just they're not willing to grow their spend. But the statistic is posing the point that a selection of brands in this survey might be waiting to see this value coming through. And so there's this ROI case. So let's go through each of these three that you've put there. So the making of more efficiency. So this is an obvious one, isn't it? Is the ROI case simply is it the doomsday one? We need less people, or that they are repurposed? Is that how the ROI applies there and the value?
I mean, my view is that it's repurposing people. So it's they're currently spending maybe 80% of their time on doing a task that isn't really adding value to your business. It's just performing admin tasks, necessary tasks. If you could free up that 80% of the time, how much that's 80% of their time they can now spend on growing in your business or in developing what you're doing further. So it's really freeing up the human capacity to do things that humans are good at. So that can be like relationship building, it can be thinking creatively, it can be problem solving, all things like that.
I suppose what's the value here? It's that they're able to. It's partially subjective. Is it true that some business people would have to say, yes, I feel more informed? So there's that side to it. And there might be just, imagine it's like they're able to take actions quicker. So fewer failures or something like this. There's metrics, isn't there?
Yeah, I think taking actions quicker is a great example of it. It removes sort of bottlenecks, because at the moment we're saying the initial approach is, someone has to remember in their process to check a dashboard at a particular time, distribute messages at the right time. If like the data indicating some event happens 3 hours before they check the dashboard, that's already a 3-hour lag. Plus then they have to remember to check it. They may get busy, they may get delayed when they check it, they may forget to check it because they're busy and there's pressure for them to do other things. So there's an element of making the decision quicker, but also making it less stressful for the people involved in the decision, and giving them really the data to back it up and verify the decision as well.
And the last one, sort of data discovery and discovering patterns. I suppose this is a horrible one, because you don't know the ROI of the thing that you don't know that you might find. But when you explained it that way, I was really thinking of biology. Yeah, it's probably like lots of these cases of things like drug discovery and biological findings relating to genes and proteins and all these wacky things that I don't know too much about. But when you find them, it's a bit of a 1 in a billion chance that you can find something that's impactful for science and even humanity. So it's hard to know what you're going to get.
But I mean, I can drag that back into industry as well. When you're looking at as we start to take more and more data, there are things you can find out about both like the efficiency. Maybe it's about the efficiency of how your machines are running. If you run a lot of machines, maybe it's about your customer relationships. Like you may find patterns in how people want to engage with your company and what products they want to buy, and be able to pull that out. And there's no way that a human could, and probably you wouldn't want them as well to scroll through your entire customer database. You'd want to be able to say, well, hang on a minute, we noticed that there are these patterns in how some people behave. They want this. Shouldn't we be able to give them this better service, this thing that they're wanting, right, without us having to look and probe too deeply into their personal lives as well?
So Tom, we've covered the use cases, and what makes a good use case, and the kind of sort of three kinds. We've gone over like, well, what creates the value? So what might you measure, or how might you look at it to decide if it was valuable? But the part that I've got something stuck in my head, and it's this flattening of spend over a 12-month time frame. So the indication there is that some of these people surveyed are waiting to see their value come through. So they maybe hold my spend constant, waiting to see what happens. So can I ask you, what do you feel would ensure success on a project basis? So say something took 12 months, what would be just some things you would put in and ways you would expect it to be done to sort of stack things in your favor and make that project successful? And then what would you do over a longer time frame? Like if you had to sort of be looking at here's my 5-year horizon, and I want to make sure everything I do is great and all the things I did stay great, what would you set up there? So a short-term set of things you would do, and then the long-term, please.
Yeah, so I think like there's some interesting statistics I've seen in a number of AI reports is the overwhelming feeling of leaders that they are behind. I think the most recent stat I saw was that 80% of leaders feel like they are still behind on AI, and it's sort of a partner stat to that is that 1 in 4 AI projects often have led to failure, and I think these two statistics map quite well. And there's this tendency sometimes to feel that pressure and to go, well, we need to jump straight in to the newest cutting edge AI, shoehorn it into the process. But really, like, I can't stress how important it is to take a step back and actually validate that use case, get all your stakeholders in a room, actually understand what is the problem we're going to solve, what is the data that we are putting into it, and how are we measuring the actual success of this, because there's no AI is built off it's built off targets, it's built off statistical measures. If you're using the wrong statistical measure, it will do the wrong thing. So it's really important to get that nailed down, and then once you've got through that stage, I think it's important to set some sort of milestones, which are initially firstly sorting out that data pipeline, the foundations of your project. Like all we build is built on the top of data, so it's important that you've got the infrastructure right. You're probably then setting a minimum viable product or a benchmark type solution where it's the easiest target. It's maybe a more simple model, but it gives you some validation of, are you heading in the right direction? And then as this project goes on, you can have points where you start to add that complexity, add more data if you need to, and it gives you that opportunity to build brick by brick rather than sort of trying to miracle an entire wall without having put each one in.
And then what about the long term? You had to make sure all your projects over a longer time frame had the best chance of success. How would you be setting up?
Yeah, I think it is a really similar to how you'd focus on that a 1-year project, but you zoom out and you're saying, well, actually, the data and the strategy are important. So you need to understand as a business, what are your priority use cases? You need to be able to measure how well you're doing against them. What are the things that actually you're struggling most with? But then you need to focus on those foundations, because it's very easy, if you think about things in terms of short-term projects, to build everything into its own separate silo. But what you then find is that when you come to tackle another problem down the line, a lot of your silos might not speak to each other. So and you've got an extra amount of work to bring everything together. So it's really thinking more about what are your long-term goals? What are the projects that you have running? How do they fit together? And how do you build that into really like you're an ecosystem that encourages you and makes the development of more projects easier? Because with the rate that technology is changing and the rate that techniques are changing, you can't plan ahead to say, well, this is the exact AI project we're going to be doing in 5 years' time, because new techniques will have come out by then, and they may be the ones that are beneficial to you. You've got to have that ability to pivot and adapt to your needs.
Of course, the data is always changing. So as a kind of, I suppose it all links off into data strategy, all these governance things, and making sure you're collecting what you need. So it's this side of it that is, sometimes, Tom, I'm worried I'd be replaced by an AI personally. And then I realised that data things are always so complicated and like a shifting sands that hopefully I'll have a job through to retirement at least. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Good. Tom, thanks for your insights. We've hit time actually, so thanks for taking us through that. Ladies and gents, this has been ML's Like Teen Spirit.